Salud, paisans. What up? I say it every time, but that weekend is what college football is all about. It was noon to 2 a.m. nonstop greatness. I said it months ago that it was going to be the best day of the entire college football season, and so far it was. Every time slot had 18 games that were must watch. Let's go over some of them. Penn State, Ohio State. I predicted Penn State to win. And I predicted Penn State to have complete control in the first half. Third quarter, Ohio State comes back. Fourth quarter, knife fight. What was it actually? It was a Big Ten defensive showdown. And I was wrong with the outcome. Ohio State won. If that game got played in Happy Valley, I still think Ohio State wins. It's just the nature of this that I don't know what Jimmy Frankie is doing with that kid Drew Alla. Throw it down the middle. Just attempt a throw down the middle anytime. These bubble screens. You're never gonna win a big game if all you do is the bubble screens. You had the defense. You had multiple things go your way in terms of luck. When the punt bounced off the Buckeye and you had the ball at midfield. But here's the real thing. The Nittany Lions were 1 for 16 on third down. If I told you that before the game started, you wouldn't have had to know what the outcome was. You would have known Penn State loses. But Ohio State looks like number one team in the country. They have 2 of the biggest wins. Most teams don't even have 1. But the next game, what did I pick? Third Saturday in October. You'll notice there is no cigar in my hand. As you know, smoke 'em if you got 'em is the slogan of the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry. And I could never pull for Alabama. I can't think of one way I could ever pull for Alabama. I've been thinking about it all week. Tennessee looked dominant in the first half. Kind of like how I predicted Penn State was going to be. And then they got shut out. They did not score 1 point in the second half. Alabama looked vulnerable the entire game. But you know who else looked vulnerable the second half? Tennessee. And you know, Tennessee was down 7 with a good bit to go in the fourth. And fumble, run for a touchdown, game over. But hey, you know, that entire atmosphere is what I love about college football. These 2 schools hate each other, as simple as that. And the guys at CBS, they did it great. They kept the cameras on, all the people in the stands smoking cigars. It was awesome. I had my cigar. Bobby's kid was over. You know, Bobby's kid loves Tennessee, but the cigars went unsmoked because you can't smoke after a loss, even though some people do. But anyway, we march on. What was another game that I predicted? Florida State versus Duke. I said Florida State wins. And Florida State did win. And you know what's funny? Duke had control of the ball, of the game almost the entire time. They won the lead for 3 of the 4 quarters total, right? But what was funny was, no matter when Florida State was losing, right? They had control of the game. You don't see that very often, but they had control. They didn't have the points, but you could tell the game was running through them. And then it finally met up with Duke, and Duke lost. Now, people are saying that had their quarterback, Riley Leonard, been healthy, 100% healthy the whole game, Duke would have won. I don't think so. If you look at the stats, Duke wasn't big through the air regardless of who the quarterback was. But Florida State looked fantastic. They had a big moment, and they succeeded in it. So Florida State, they're looking pretty damn good too. Minnesota, Iowa. Floyd of Rosedale, great trophy. Big brass pig. It's like a 100-year-old trophy. All I got to say is, shame on you, Big Ten officiating. That was not a fair catch. Nowhere near was there. He flung his arm out. Point, hey, block me. Iowa should be the victors of that game. You know, some people are higher than blaming referees. You know, play better. Iowa needs to play better, frankly. That bullshit with the with that stupid ass fucking nepo baby Brian Ferentz, awful name, BF Brian F. Gross. That's just nepotism. Kirk is fired at the end of the season just for that game because they never should have been in that. In the second half, Iowa gained 2 yards, okay? Yes, it was bullshit officiating, but Iowa needs to play better. Minnesota takes the floor to Rosedale, 12-10. Virginia, UNC. This game was on the CW. You know, who would have thought a year ago, oh yeah, the CW is going to be putting on some heat in college football? I certainly wouldn't have thought. That game was most watched. That was a knife fight. I wanted knife fights this weekend, and that was a fucking knife fight. The name of that is the South Oldest rivalry. You know, I mean, people from Virginia and North Carolina hate each other long as possible, right? And North Carolina fumbles the bag. They very well could have been eliminated from the playoff contention with that loss. And it just reminded me that Mac Brown is 90% elite. But man, when that 10% shows its ugly head, and you've seen it in so many big games for UNC in Mac Brown's second stint for the Tar Heels, they should have rolled over Virginia. What were they? 1-5 or something? There's very glaring. I was going to make a video later this week about dark horses. I was thinking about making this video around this week. I was thinking about making a dark horse video. I still might. And UNC was going to be number 1. Simple matter of fact, Mac Brown lacks that 10% to go all the way. And if they do, that's awesome. But that's my view on it. Talking about some more ACC. By the way, before I go on, CW, people are complaining about it. I thought it was pretty good. Honestly, I thought the production was pretty good, you know? And I hope they get better, but we'll continue. Clemson, Miami, double overtime in Coral Gables. That game, neither team wanted to win. And that's one of those classics. Neither team wanted it was ugly. It wasn't no knife fight. It was awful. I was pulling for Clemson, mostly because I don't like Miami. But I don't like Clemson either, you know. And Miami ended up winning double overtime, but the final play, I don't know who drew that up, you know. But you look up a replay. The quarterback gets it, and he wants to do like a shovel pass real quick. Miami eats it up, so then he just kind of runs backwards, out of bounds, game over, you know, the time. I don't know. It was weird. But yes, Miami wins, and the toxicity reigns for the orange teams in the ACC. Ole Miss Auburn. I didn't preview this game. Most of the people I know didn't preview this game. No one was talking about it. I had the triple screen setup this weekend, okay? I had a 60-inch TV, a 50-inch TV, and a 40-inch TV playing games nonstop for 14 hours. And Ole Miss Auburn was playing at the same time as Florida State Duke. And actually, Ole Miss Auburn started first, so that was on the big screen. And when Ole Miss Duke hit, Ole Miss Auburn, Florida State Duke. I had Ole Miss Auburn on the big screen and Duke, Florida State on the little screen. And by goodness, the first half of the Ole Miss Auburn game was fucking awesome. It ended up tied right before the half ended, 14-14. It was fucking awesome. And, you know, these national types, these jerk-offs, they only talk about like 3 teams in the SEC. Georgia, Bama, LSU, you know. The SEC is such fucking good football that even the also-rans, if you want to call them, the has-beens, the never-wers, they still put on such fucking good football because every school hates every school. It was such a fucking good game. Ole Miss ends up winning, 28-21. And honestly, the second half, there wasn't much scoring in the second half, but it was very clear when the second half started, Ole Miss had it. But that first half was fucking awesome. Can't recommend it enough. Utah, USC. I predicted Utah to win, and Utah won. The final, do yourself a favor, look up the final 2 minutes of that game. It was insanity. The final 2 minutes, it took 30 minutes to play. And it's just very glaringly obvious. Lincoln Riley, I don't think the obvious thing is, you know, for a while, like, oh, he can't coach defense. Lincoln Riley doesn't want to coach defense. That after his performance in South Bend last week, you'd think, okay, Utah, we gotta button down our defense. We're home. No, Lincoln Riley does not care about playing defense. Now, what's next? People are saying he's going to go to the NFL. No, he's not. He's going to be one of those guys that you hear about for years. NFL, 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 and never does. He is a quarterback whisperer. He's had 3 Heisman winners in his 7 years of coaching, and then one guy that came in second in Heisman voting. So he's a quarterback whisperer. He's not much else. Every time he went to the playoff, except for that Rose Bowl, he got blown out. Doesn't care about defense. And that old stupid saying, defense wins championships, rears its ugly head yet again. But what else? We got UCF, Oklahoma. That was a noon game. And, me and the old man, we were discussing this game just as we were going through the leaderboards before noon, before kickoff. And I was like, Oklahoma's going to roll, just destroy UCF. UCF looks like trash. Completely untrue. Absolutely completely untrue. Oklahoma barely wins 31-29. The only reason they don't is UCF doesn't score a 2-point conversion as time expires. And, I think a lot of people are reacting of, Oklahoma's vulnerable. I don't think so. I think Oklahoma's fantastic at football, surprisingly. I didn't think Oklahoma was going to be good in year 2 under Venables. But I think it's one of those classic. If you go into any team's catalog after they went to the playoff or big bowl game, they always have one game where they won by really close. I'm sure LSU 2019, there's one game you could look up where, that was a close game, but they eked out the win. And that's the thing. A truly great team ekes out the win. UNC, they have all the potential to be a truly great team, but they couldn't eke out the win, and I think it's Mac Brown. Sorry for going back to that. But Oklahoma, they're looking really fucking good. And on the flip side of Oklahoma, Texas, they squeaked by Houston, and in the process, Quinn Ewers got hurt, so we'll see. We'll see with them. But anyway, it was such a fucking good weekend, and I implore you people to keep on just loving this sport. Because, as I said earlier, when you got the expanded playoff, I think these weekends are going to be diluted because people know they got a safety net. Nothing's as good as when you don't have a safety net. You don't play your best when you have a safety net underneath you. So that's just my take on it. But, great weekend. And right now, people are saying, oh, man, look at the slate of this upcoming weekend. Half the teams are on a bye. Oh, it's going to be a sleeper. Don't even watch. How many times have we had this discussion? Every time they tell you it's going to be a sleeper weekend, you see great fucking football. There might not be numbers next to the names. And I mostly went on ranked teams this week. I'm sorry. There was great football all over the landscape. So this weekend, plenty of teams are on byes. You got a couple of games that a little bit more oomph to them, but it's just great fucking football all around. But anyway, salud, get out of here. We'll be back later this week for some previews. But anyway, salud.